The rain poured endlessly that night, turning the empty road into a mirror of mud and water. Thomas gripped the steering wheel, trying to see through the fogged-up windshield, but his car suddenly coughed, rattled, and died in the middle of nowhere. He cursed under his breath and tried the ignition again. Nothing. His phone had no signal. Around him stretched miles of darkness, no traffic, no houses, no signs of life. Only the sound of rain hammering down and the occasional flash of lightning tearing across the sky. Then, through the sheets of rain, Thomas saw it. A dim light glowed in the distance. An old building and stood by the roadside. Its crooked sign swayed in the wind, barely legible. "Welcome in." Relieved, Thomas grabbed his bag and made his way through the storm, water soaking his clothes. The heavy wooden door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, the lobby was eerily silent. The air smelled of damp wood and dust, and the faint buzzing of a single light bulb echoed through the emptiness. Behind the counter sat an old man, his back hunched, his eyes unnervingly hollow. "I need a room," Thomas said, shivering. The old man didn't ask questions. He slid an old brass key across the counter. The tag attached to it read, "Room 7." The man's voice was raspy as he whispered, "Don't stay up too late." The hallway to room 7 was narrow and dimly lit, the floorboards groaning under Thomas's steps. The walls were lined with faded wallpaper, stained from years of neglect. Inside the room, the atmosphere was worse. The bulb flickered weakly, throwing shadows that seemed to move on their own. The walls were damp, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. A wardrobe stood in the corner, its tall mirror covered in dust and streaks. Thomas dropped his bag on the bed and sat down, exhausted. The springs creaked beneath him like a groan from within. He tried to ignore it and lay back, but unease tightened his chest. That's when he heard it. Whispers. At first, they blended with the sound of the rain. But soon, they grew clearer, soft voices, as if several people were standing right beside his bed, murmuring in low tones. He shot up, scanning the room. No one. The whispers ceased. Thomas laughed nervously to himself and shook his head. Just his imagination. But then his eyes drifted to the wardrobe mirror. The glass was rippling like water. Thomas stood, moving closer, his breath hitched. A pale hand pressed against the inside of the glass, then another. Slowly, a figure began to take shape, a young woman in a tattered white dress, her long black hair hiding her face. Her head tilted unnaturally as she pressed harder against the mirror. The whispers returned, sharper now, words formed out of the static noise. "Leave before it's too late. Leave before it's too late." Thomas stumbled back, knocking into the bed. The light bulb above him flickered violently before shattering with a loud pop, plunging the room into darkness. Something cold grazed the back of his neck. Fingers. He gasped and spun around. Nothing. The light flickered weakly back to life. The mirror now stood empty. Relief filled him until he noticed his reflection was gone. In its place, the woman stood inside the glass, her hollow black eyes locked on him. Slowly, impossibly, she smiled. Thomas bolted to the door, twisting the knob furiously. It wouldn't open. He pounded on it, shouting for help, but the hallway outside remained silent. Behind him, the whispers rose again, louder, surrounding him from every corner. Then, footsteps. Thomas froze. His chest heaved as slow, deliberate footsteps echoed across the wooden floor. He turned toward the mirror. The woman was gone. But the sound of footsteps drew closer, closer. A shadow stretched across the floor behind him. Thomas turned, and the last thing he saw was the pale woman standing inches away, her head jerking violently as she lunged. The next morning, the caretaker shuffled to room 7. The door creaked open to reveal a perfectly tidy bed. Thomas's bag was gone. The room smelled faintly of damp air, nothing unusual. But the mirror was different. The dust was gone, its surface polished like new. And if one looked closely, buried deep in the glass, a distorted face could be seen, Thomas's face, screaming.